The welcome we didn't ask for asterisk. The first thing we loved about the house on Cypress Lane was the ancient, sprawling oak tree in the front yard, its branches a promise of tire swings and dappled shade. The second thing was the price. It was a steal, a miracle we'd whispered about over takeout for months. We didn't know then that the miracle came with a gatekeeper. Asterisk, her name was Evelyn Vance. And she descended upon our moving day chaos like a hawk spotting wounded prey. I was wrestling a box marked kitchen, fragile, that was mostly filled with my wife's vintage teacup collection. My back screaming in protest. Lena was directing the movers with the calm precision of a battlefield general, a sheen of sweat on her brow making her dark skin glow in the morning sun. Our daughter Maya, 6 years old and fueled by pure joy, was already attempting to scale the oak tree. Asterisk, a little early for that, isn't it? A voice, sharp as a shard of glass, cut through the humid air. Asterisk, Evelyn stood at the edge of our lawn, perfectly coiffed, wearing crisp white slacks and a look of profound disapproval. She held a leather-bound binder against her chest like a shield. Asterisk, good morning, Lena said, her voice warm but with that subtle, professional edge she used on difficult clients. I'm Lena, this is my husband Ben, and our daughter Maya. You must be a neighbor. Asterisk, Evelyn Vance, president of the Cypress Lane Homeowners Association. She didn't offer a hand. Her eyes, a pale, watery blue, scanned our rented moving truck. The scuff marks on the porch steps, the single dandelion daring to bloom in the crabgrass. I've left 3 welcome packets in your mailbox over the past week. I assume you've been too busy to review the covenants? Asterisk, I forced a smile, setting the heavy box down. We've been a little swamped, Miss Vance. We'll get to it soon, I promise. Asterisk, it's Mrs. Vance, she corrected, her smile not reaching her eyes. And soon isn't quite adequate. All exterior paint colors must be pre-approved. Fences require a unanimous vote from the board. Your mailbox is non-compliant, must be brass, not black. And that, she said, her gaze landing on Maya, who was now hanging upside down from the lowest branch. Her giggles echoing constitutes an unapproved structure modification. The tree. Asterisk, Lena's smile tightened. I'm sorry, our daughter enjoying our tree is a structure modification? Asterisk, the HOA bylaws, Article 14, Section 3, clearly state that no permanent or semi-permanent external fixtures may be affixed to community flora without a permit. That includes rope swings, tree houses, and children. She said the last word as if it were a synonym for vermin. Asterisk, a cold knot tightened in my stomach. This wasn't just neighborhood fussiness. This was a pathology. Asterisk, the confrontation ended with Evelyn thrusting another binder into my hands. Compliance is not optional, Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo. It's what keeps our property values high in our community. Pure? Asterisk, Lena flinched almost imperceptibly at the word pure. We were used to the microaggressions, the subtle othering, but this felt different, more pointed. Asterisk, that night over pizza boxes on the floor, we read the HOA covenant. It was a masterpiece of control. Grass height, curtain linings, holiday decoration, duration, every facet of life was micromanaged. Asterisk, we're not signing this. Ben, Lena said, her voice firm. We didn't buy a house to rent our lives from a dictator. Asterisk, I know, I sighed, pulling her close. But she's not going to take no for an answer. Asterisk, I was right. The letters started immediately. Official, sternly worded notices on HOA letterhead. Fines for the black mailbox. Fines for our non-conforming welcome mat. A final notice threatening a lien on our property for the unpermitted child-related arboreal activity. Asterisk, we tried reason. Lena, a lawyer, drafted a polite but firm letter citing the original property deeds, which made no mention of a mandatory HOA. We invited Evelyn over for coffee, a peace offering. She sat on the edge of our sofa, refusing the mug Lena offered, her eyes cataloging every minor imperfection. Asterisk, the association is the bedrock of this neighborhood, she said, her voice syrupy with false concern. We all choose to live here because we appreciate a certain standard. People who don't wish to uphold those standards are often better suited elsewhere. Asterisk, we uphold a standard of living that includes freedom and joy for our family, Lena replied, her knuckles white as she gripped her own mug. Asterisk, Evelyn's smile was thin and cruel. Freedom is a lovely concept, but it has its consequences. Asterisk, the consequences arrived on a Tuesday evening. Maya was in the backyard, chasing fireflies. Lena and I were on the porch swing, her head on my shoulder, watching the lightning bugs blink in the twilight. The peace was shattered by the crunch of tires and the blinding flash of red and blue lights. Asterisk. 2 police cars pulled up to our curb. Asterisk, my heart hammered against my ribs. What the hell? Asterisk, Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at our house. The officers, a wary-looking veteran and a younger, eager one, approached. Asterisk, evening, folks, the veteran said. We've had a complaint of, well, it says here, suspicious activity and potential child endangerment. A little girl was seen climbing a tree unsupervised. Asterisk, Lena shot to her feet, her body vibrating with fury. She's in our fenced backyard, with us, on our property. Asterisk, the complainant stated, you've been hostile and are operating an unpermitted daycare, the younger officer said, his hand resting on his belt. Asterisk, I saw it then, the whole insidious plan. She wasn't just trying to fine us into compliance. She was trying to criminalize our existence. As Lena argued with them, her voice sharp with a rage I rarely heard, I looked past the cops at Evelyn. She stood there, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. She had called the police on a black family for the crime of living peacefully in their own home. The unspoken threat hung in the air, cold and terrifying. Asterisk. After 20 minutes of pointless discussion, the officers left with a warning to keep the peace. But the peace was already shattered. Lena was trembling, tears of fury and fear in her eyes. Maya had come to the back door, her small face pale and scared. Asterisk, I held them both. My own anger a cold, hard stone in my gut. This was war. And as I looked over at Evelyn's dark, silent house, I knew we couldn't fight it on her terms. We had to dig deeper. Asterisk, she's done this before. I whispered to Lena that night in bed. This level of malice, it's practiced. It's a system. Asterisk, Lena, her legal mind already shifting from defense to offense, turned to me. Her eyes, which had been clouded with hurt, now gleamed with a fierce, determined light. Asterisk, then let's find out what she's hiding, she said. Nobody's this clean. The police visit changed something in us. The hurt curdled into a cold, focused resolve. Lena spent her evenings after putting Maya to bed not reading legal briefs, but scouring public records, county databases, and obscure online forums for homeowners battling HOAs. Look at this, she said one night, her laptop screen casting a blue glow on her face. She's been HOA president for 12 years. In that time, 3 families on this street have sold up and moved unexpectedly. All of them were, like us, people of color. I asked, the cold stone in my gut growing heavier. Or young couples, or single parents. Anyone who didn't fit her pure community ideal? She clicked through another file. And get this, the fines she's levied. They don't all go to community upkeep. There's a legal defense fund with over $100,000 in it. But the HOA has never been sued. It was a slush fund. A weapon, but it wasn't enough. My contribution was more analog. I started taking long late-night walks with our dog Buster. I'd linger near Evelyn's house, a pristine colonial with manicured boxwoods and not a single shutter out of alignment. It was perfect. Oppressively so. But on my third walk, I noticed something. Very late, long after her lights went out, a different, softer light would flicker on in her basement. It would stay on for exactly an hour, then go off. Every night, like clockwork, I told Lena. A basement office. A secret wine cellar? At 10 a.m., she mused. That's not a hobby. That's a ritual. The break came from an unexpected place. Maya, trying to fly a kite in the backyard, got it tangled high in the branches of our oak tree. As I was trying to knock it loose with a long pole, I noticed something I hadn't before. From the higher branches of our tree, you had a perfect, unobstructed view into Evelyn's backyard. And her backyard wasn't just lawn. Tucked behind a tall, decorative fence was a large, professional-grade greenhouse. It was odd. She never mentioned a love for gardening. Her front yard was all sterile, sculpted shrubs. The next day, while Evelyn was presumably at one of her many HOA committee meetings, I did something I'm not proud of. I climbed the old oak tree, my phone in my pocket. Perched high in the canopy, I zoomed my camera lens on the greenhouse. The plants inside weren't roses or orchids. They were a vibrant, unmistakable green. Marijuana. I scrambled down, my heart pounding for a new reason. I showed the blurry photos to Lena. My God, she breathed. She's running a grow-op. It was the crack we needed, but it wasn't enough for the local police. Not after the last time. Lena, however, had a former law school classmate who was now an assistant U.S. attorney. She made a call, sent the photos, and laid out the entire story that targeted harassment. The suspicious finds, the clandestine greenhouse. She framed it not just as a neighborly dispute, but as a potential case of wire fraud, money laundering from the HOA slush fund, and large-scale narcotics manufacturing. A week later, the world exploded. It was dawn. The sky was just bleeding from black to a soft periwinkle. The sound wasn't a doorbell. It was a thunderous, repetitive boom-boom-doom that shook the very foundations of our house. FBI. Open up. I stumbled to the window, my heart in my throat. But the agents in their bulky vests, armed with a battering ram, weren't on our porch. They were across the street. They hit Evelyn's door with a force that splintered the wood. Agents swarmed inside, their shouts echoing in the quiet street. Lena and I stood at our window, holding each other, Maya peeking out from behind my legs. Her eyes wide with a fear I never wanted her to know. We watched as they brought Evelyn out. She was in a silk bathrobe, her perfect hair disheveled, her face a mask of stunned, haughty fury. They put her in the back of a sedan. Then, agents began carrying out evidence. Boxes of documents, computers, and from the basement, they brought out something that made my blood run cold. Not drugs. Not money, they carried out server racks. Dozens of them. Black, sleek, and humming with a malevolent energy, even from across the street. An hour later, an agent in a suit, looking exhausted and grim, crossed the street and approached us. Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo, I'm Special Agent Miller. We appreciate your tip. The narcotics were there, a significant grow operation in the greenhouse. But that was just the side hustle. The side hustle? Lena asked, her voice barely a whisper. The server's in her basement, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. She was running one of the largest, most sophisticated doxing and harassment forums on the dark web. The Homestead, they called it. A place where people like her HOA bullies, Neighborhood Watch vigilance could share personal information, coordinate harassment campaigns, and drive people they deemed undesirable out of their communities. For a fee, of course. She used the HOA fines to fund it. She wasn't just trying to run you out of the neighborhood, folks. She was cataloging your lives, preparing to unleash her online army on you. The twist was so much darker, so much more profound than we could have ever imagined. Her obsession with control, with purity, wasn't confined to Cypress Lane. It was a global enterprise of hate. Run from a pristine basement. We stood in silence long after the agent left. Watching the sun finally rise over our quiet street, the oak tree stood, strong and silent, its leaves rustling in the morning breeze. The war was over. We had won, but the victory felt hollow, chilling. The monster next door hadn't just been a nosy Karen. She had been a queen of a hidden toxic kingdom. Lena squeezed my hand. Her touch the only real thing in a world that had just tilted on its axis. The tree, Maya said softly, pointing to the old oak. It saw everything, didn't it, Daddy? I looked at the ancient witnessing branches, and then at the shattered door across the street. Yes, sweetheart, I whispered, holding my family tighter. It saw everything. And in the quiet that followed the storm, the only sound was the whisper of leaves, guarding their secrets.